Oftentimes, we lie. We lie by pretending we love our jobs. We lie by pretending we love our politics. We lie by pretending a particular relationship is good for our health. And sometimes we even lie by pretending that these matters are so extremely important that they override anything else. I hate this job, and sometimes I do, in fact, disassociate at work, but, money. I can't stand blank. If so-and-so doesn't win, America is ruined. I've been unhappy for years in this relationship, but I want to keep my vows. Breaking out of this constructed life requires a lot of reflection. Not many are even given the opportunity to reflect on what life means to them, or even the roadmap to creating a life that doesn't lie to them.
The last thing I'd ever do is lie to you.
And the last thing that I would ever do is lie to you.
Sometimes we get so sidetracked that we forget that we, ourselves, constructed all of this. All of this is in our minds, an elaborate design created by the creature we all know so well: fear. Today we're going to be taking a dive into the world of realities. The world kind of seems to be falling off the deep end, and I think we're all now starting to sense it. Something's amiss. Maybe you can't put your finger exactly on what it is, but something ain't right. What do we do with all this negativity in the air? What can be changed? Is the world even malleable? Well, I'm going to try and answer those questions and a few more in this video. But let's start first with where it took a very different turn. I know for a fact that up until 2020, I would say, I didn't feel the amount of stress when politics were brought up that I do now. I know even among other Gen Zs that they won't even watch the news anymore. There's this weird sense of dread when I hear people talking about politics on the news that makes me want to leave the room. And I think for a lot of people my age, it's like ignoring the big elephant sitting on your chest. All of these financial issues in our young lives can be attributed to the economy, the influence of large corporations, and political figures who aren't looking out for your best interests. It's easier to pretend like it doesn't exist than live with the intricate knowledge of how it's fucking up your life. So, how did we get here? 2016 is often cited as a very transitional year. Trump was elected, a candidate like no other, straightforward in his speech and promising to deliver what the right side of the political spectrum desired. He ended up becoming the first person without government or military experience to be elected president. In this year, we start to see a very tense shift in the political climate. It's between 2016 and now that a lot of right-wing public figures showed up to give a voice to the thoughts a lot of conservative Americans had been thinking. Jordan Peterson took off and went viral for his lectures in 2016, along with other public figures in that same sphere, sort of like a domino effect. And now there is a lot of pushback to more left-wing rhetoric on a scale I haven't quite seen before. And it's getting pretty ugly. And then the pandemic happens. All that had been simmering is now being reflected on. But the one thing I've noticed that the left side and the right side are a little more united on is freedom. We all want more freedom, though the way we aim to achieve it may be very different. This time during the pandemic, we really thought about what freedom meant to us. We're encountering changes not only in our political views, but in our personal lives. Wait, what are we all doing this for anyway? Why should I hold all these opinions about this person or that person? What about me? Where is the meaning in my life? I don't want to work my life away for a company that wouldn't care if I died. I don't want to work 40 hours a week only to essentially live in a shoebox. Why am I being taxed this high when I make so little? Is this the American dream I was promised? I want more. I want freedom. I want to be me, the real me. We're now waking up to the fact that we are, indeed, living a constructed life. I cannot believe that our factory system is the best mode by which men may get clothing. The condition of the operatives is becoming every day more like that of the English, and it cannot be wondered at since, as far as I have heard or observed, the principal object is not that mankind may be well and honestly clad, but unquestionably that corporations may be enriched. In the long run, men hit only what they aim at. Therefore, though they should fail immediately, they had better aim at something high. Henry David Thoreau, American naturalist and essayist. Henry David Thoreau was recently brought to my attention after watching the new movie on Netflix, Uglies. Based on the book series, this movie is about a dystopian society where, at a certain age, a person is forced to undergo extreme plastic surgery, making them pretty. This process was enacted in order to erase all prejudice, but not everyone believes in the lies sold by the state. The main character's friend goes off to live in the woods with a colony who also disagrees with the state. This colony lives a very minimalistic life, completely disconnected from modern society. What struck me was the scene where her friend hands the main character Tally a book called Walden by Henry David Thoreau. She remarks, "How did you get this?" Utterly confused how she could smuggle a book in, considering they aren't allowed books. And this author's books continue to make an appearance in the movie. Now, this is no small coincidence. Henry David Thoreau was best known for his book Walden, which was written after he made a very novel decision himself to escape the confines of society and move to the woods. Thoreau was 27 at the time and a recent Harvard graduate. He built himself a 10 by 15 cabin near the shore of Walden Pond. He desired something different out of life. He desired to live simply. He writes, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." At the time, Thoreau was deeply entrenched in the philosophy of transcendentalism. At its core, transcendentalism is the belief that people and nature are inherently good, and that it's society and institutions that corrupt the purity of people. But people are at their best when truly self-reliant. The individual's own experience and intuition are given greater importance compared to established authority and tradition. There's also greater emphasis on spirituality rather than religion. And of course, a deep appreciation for nature as a source of inspiration and spiritual truth. During his time at Walden Pond, Thoreau kept many journals which documented his musings and observations. These journals were what came to be the primary material for Walden. Living in this cabin in the middle of nowhere, Thoreau also had no income. His reward and sustenance was by the work of his own hands. He farmed, eating and selling the food he grew from the ground. What came of Walden were significant lessons learned from living outside of modernity. When you strip things back, you either go one of two ways. You either realize how much you don't need compared to the things that matter, or you sputter and drown beneath the weight of perceived scarcity. It's all in the head in the end. For he considers not what is truly respectable, but what is respected. If we dig deep into what motivates us, we might say to ourselves, "These luxuries are for me solely. I'm not one of those that wants to look good to others. I just want to feel good." We delude ourselves. To be a part of society and to be a living human being is to have an ego. I often wonder how I would dress or what I would buy if I didn't care about the opinions of others or they didn't care about what I wore or owned. I like to tell myself I do it for myself, as I relish in the art of design and beautiful things. But why do I need to possess it? Creating brings me greater joy than any amount of buying things to keep and to look at. Thoreau also says, "I learned this at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours." And this is the quote that got me the most. When we're young, we might be told, get a well-paying job, don't follow your dreams. I cannot think of worse advice. I think we know deep down when we are not living up to our potential. Something feels off. It can be a lack of motivation or even disassociating at work, which I've done a lot of. I know more people in my life who hate their jobs so much that it leads to a sense of hopelessness or depression. How can we possibly prioritize money over happiness? People do not realize that money is an exchange of value. We all have different skills. When we exchange those skills, we make money. Sometimes it takes time to build it up, but what you focus on really does become a reality. It's bound to. If we get an image of the roadmap, we can feasibly take and act on it. It really is more possible than you can think. It's all focus. By saying it cannot happen, you are making it not happen. And that leads to my next point. Thoreau says, "The cost of the thing is the amount of what I will call life, which is required to exchange for it, immediately or in the long run." When we are working, we are exchanging time. It's important to question why we do things. Why are we exchanging all this time, essentially our lives? Is it worth it? If we think about the hours spent at work as life given away, we start to view things very differently. Life is short. Are you willing to give your hours, months, years, decades to a particular job that you despise or are indifferent to, that you just put up with? Thoreau makes a point that we need to examine our goals. Otherwise, we are hamsters on a spinning wheel. So yes, Henry David Thoreau makes some pretty good points, but how can we possibly enact that in today's age? It's easy to say, live simply, or throw around the word minimalism, but really these things are all a state of mind. Like taking moments out of our day to question our motives. When the impulse arises to consume or to buy things that we know won't enrich us on a true level, we should question where that desire comes from. It has been shown that the more flow states we enter during the day leads to higher well-being. Flow states are times when we become so engrossed in what we are doing that we almost lose track of time. We don't experience distractions at this time. Flow states occur when we are challenged at a level congruent to our skill level, when we are entering creator mode or just using our skills very well. It's total engagement. So finding ways to be more creative or just active can bring out more instances of flow states. And might I add, this is why mindlessly scrolling is so bad for us. All social media's purpose and drive is to make money, and to steal your attention for as long as possible. When you scroll mindlessly, you are allowing them to steal your flow states. All that time that could have been used to paint or to build that bookshelf you've been wanting to build is now stolen and used to line Mark Zuckerberg's pockets. He is essentially stealing your happiness and your drive to pursue your goals and dreams. Next, it's important to examine our identity. We often care so much about how a person we don't even know thinks about us. Will they judge me for living with my parents to save money for now? Will they judge me for working this particular job? And we compare ourselves. And sometimes we take opportunities based on these opinions rather than our own intrinsic desires. Comparison is the thief of joy. There is a difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the drive to do something because you like doing it, not because of external pressure or reward. Intrinsic goals are linked to higher life satisfaction according to a study done by Kaiser and Ryan. External motivation is when the goal comes from an outside source. A person with external motivation may be motivated by wealth, fame, or social approval. This is linked to lower life satisfaction according to psychologists Deci and Ryan in their studies on intrinsic versus external motivation. All in all, it's these points that make me realize that we, in a way, create our own reality. We can live as though the power has been ripped away from us, slaving away behind a desk or tethered to the confines of modernity. Or we can construct our own lives, just as they have attempted to construct our own. They can take your possessions, your money, your attention, but they cannot take your inner self, your purest free will. And that's what always gets them in the end.